And a very good morning, everyone, and welcome to the TriggerCharts pre-market rundown for Friday, June 16th, 2021. I'm Andrew Horowitz. I'm the co-founder of TriggerCharts, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things today, a lot of different symbols, utilizing your symbols, so make sure that you put everything that you want to talk about inside of the chat, and we'll go through that. I have some things that I've been looking at as well to go through with you today in regards to how things are looking, what's happening, and go through the indicators that we have over on the TradeStation trading app platform. You know, basically what we do is we look for a combination of two things, very simple, relatively simple. We look for volume and price, and we take each and every tick, each and every trade that goes through and calculate the volume based on that trade. In other words, we can get a really good identification of where the people are putting their money. It's not just a simple horizontal view of volume. It's not just a simple look at price. It's a combination, because if you think about it for a second, if we can calculate how much money is actually putting down on any particular level, and we coordinate that and bring that together in a concise manner by looking at the entire market of what is being traded, then we get a really good view of what is happening, where those lines in the sand are, where the bets are. And with that, what happens is we get a couple different things. Well, if you look to the right side of this chart right now, what you see is a chart with colors, right? A lot of colors. Well, I like colors because it makes it very easy for me to just take a very quick view and get an idea of what's happening. But the second thing that's really important is looking at where those levels are, the width of the altimeter. For example, when we look at this, we can take a tool and just kind of look, okay, well, that's that large and that's that big. Well, this is a little bit smaller, gets a little wider. How much from top to bottom to the mid-size? These are all important clues that we can develop and look at, because if the range is a lot wider on certain areas, and we see that that range is very significant from top to bottom, in this 38 down to 36, not a big deal, but enough, 6% or so, then what we could say is that this is an important area to look at, that there could be a significant drop, as there is nothing here. There's a sea of black, I like to call it, a very fast zone. More importantly, we look for where it's below and look at those key areas and say, okay, where's our levels? And you kind of can draw some boxes there. We'll go through all of that and talk about how to utilize this. There is some really good training over on TriggerCharts.com, and you can also find that there is a significant amount of information going back at all of the archives on our YouTube channel with TriggerCharts. Before we go any further, I have to mention that investing, of course, involves substantial risk, and past performance is not a guarantee of results. We are not giving any recommendations here this morning at all. We're just looking at how things set up, giving you ideas and an educational tool in order to figure out, is this a good setup? Is there a bias? And you make the decisions. Again, please consider this for educational purposes only and use your best judgment when investing. Now, where are we? Well, we see a little bit of a pickup. Been a kind of a sloppy week in this weird, I would say, this correlation that's been broken, that comes back between yields, between the large cap, the small cap, the value, the growth. Kind of a strange environment overall when you look at it, because what we're finding is that the correlations to a degree are broken until they just don't want to be. All of a sudden one day say, oh, they're back again. And one of the things that we've seen recently is this very, very significant bid to the bonds. We look at the long-term, mid-term, short-term, the whole entire curve is flattened out. And what that means is that yields are coming down. And you have to wonder, why is that? Why are yields coming down? And from the best we can find out, well, it's due to a couple of different things. Well, theme number one, the Fed focus. Powell and his gang talking about how inflation is transitory. Don't worry about it. The same line all the time. They got the Treasury talking about it. Janet Yellen yesterday talked about how we're going to see probably some significant inflation over the next couple of months, but then it's going to level off. Now, I want you to this is something I want you to really consider right now. This is, I think, really important. If we have inflation of 0.5, 0.7, 0.9% for 4 or 5 months, does that mean that we saw prices just move up on a month-over-month basis after the third or fourth month, 4 or 5%? And then if it just levels off from there, does that mean that we are going to see a reduction back to where we were? No. That means that we're going to continue to see the same pricing at the higher level. In other words, that pricing sticks. It's not like, oh, we have inflation and we don't, and prices go back. No, they stay up unless you have deflation, which is something they don't want. So therefore, we are going to see higher prices in the future. They are trying their best to mask all this and to make us try to believe, kind of hypnotize us to believe that a transitory inflation circumstance does not mean longer-term price hikes in the future. That is stupid. That is just absolutely ridiculous. So right now, you need to be looking at what are the areas for an inflationary environment that will be something to deal with in the future. One of the things, the only thing they really can control is how bonds react to this and what they do with interest rates. That's an entirely different story. If they want to keep interest rates low and they don't mind the fact that prices are higher, but yet the rate of inflation over in 4 or 5 months moderates, that's fine. It's still inflationary. It's still a hike in prices. Pricing is going up. It's a genie that doesn't go back in the bottle so easily. It's the toothpaste that doesn't go back in the tube once you put it out. So just something to consider. And as you're looking at things from a major thematic standpoint, realize that the Fed is in focus, but there may be a move to the other side. I would venture to say that the bank trade and the potential for infrastructure, some of the materials may come back into vogue as we saw in the beginning of the year. Again, the yield curve, next move, I think that we have something to talk about there. The big issue right now is, we saw this major flattening and almost too much was too good. Last week on Thursday, we saw that 1.25% yield. We saw that kind of move off of that back to close to the 1.4%, and then it's backing off again this week. And that's kind of interesting. Now, one of the things that we did notice in the recent testimony that Powell gave to Congress over the last couple of days was that it seems, well, of course we know that the politicians are politicians. And what they do is they go and they politic, right? Try to make themselves look good. And what they did was throw out all sorts of questions and try to get all sorts of excitement and trip up Powell, which doesn't really happen very often. But there's some underlying tensions, it looks like, with the Republicans are really pissed off with the fact of this very easy monetary policy. And on top of that, you have the Democrats that want more spending and want to make sure that there's a lot more benefit for the employment situation. And it seems like, with this reappointment situation occurring in the next several months, you have to wonder whether or not there's going to be some pushback from both sides on that. Now, COVID, I think this is another point that we have to talk about because that is another issue that's really weighing on yields. And if yields, in fact, are a backbone of where markets are headed because of the correlations that we've seen recently and the algos are all tied in and plugged into how yields move, I think it's something we have to talk about. Hard to believe. It's unbelievable that we're going back to seeing like mandatory mask wearing indoors in LA. We're seeing Australia locked down for a few weeks. South Africa has banned sale of alcohol, closed their restaurants, lockdowns for a couple of weeks. Israel is imposing quarantine on people coming into the country, and it goes on and on. Very interesting. We're starting to see the discussion about positivity rates again. I thought we were done with this to a degree. I mean, it's going to swirl around for a while, but I thought it was kind of on a slow and steady process. But somehow, some way, India is still in bad shape. And in Europe, we're starting to see problems. Now the discussion from Indonesia came up last night that they are very concerned about the growth trajectory. Bank of Japan last night also came in, downgraded their growth overall, maintained their policy stance because as one of the, I think it's a Geico commercial or some other commercial, that's what the Bank of Japan does. It maintains their policy stance. So right now we are looking at a couple of things that are really interesting, but the yield issue is not only due to the fact that the Fed's in charge. I think there is some aspect that there's concern about global growth going on. And with that global growth issue that we are seeing right now, the concern then folds back into where we are with regards to yields. And that is pushing down yields overall. So it could be very well tied to the COVID pandemic spread again. Also, you look at Myrna, mRNA. We'll talk about that. Let's click over to that. Actually, good news on this stock this morning, but I was looking at this over the last couple of weeks. That didn't work. That didn't work either. There we go. That didn't work either. What's happening with the keyboard? There we go. Myrna stock up $19 this morning in the pre-market, all-time high. You kind of back this off and see what's going on here. This would probably be a much prettier chart to look for on a weekly chart. Yeah, I figured. Let's kind of be really nutty. Whoop. Monthly went from 11. Let's see, right there, 331.20 of 2025 to 259. Not bad. So this stock has been on fire. One of the things that you want to look at on this stock is I think this does track the trajectory of the pandemic and the realization that we're going to need to have Moderna around for a lot longer with the vaccines. Now, recently, what I think that is really also an interesting backdrop to consider is that the mega caps are either weighing or helping the S&P 500. You know, that's usually the case, of course. That's nothing new. That's not like, wow, that's information that I really could use, Horowitz. No, that's not what that is. But what we're finding is when you see that there's a significant amount of concentration of return on a daily basis, let's say, or on a weekly basis, that is tied to a small amount of stocks. In other words, what I saw the last week or so was a thinning out of the breadth. Whereas we saw some of the bigger stocks really taking the lead, doing very well. But if you start to look underneath at the smaller stocks and the small cap index and maybe even the mid cap index, and you look at various sectors, it was like, what's going on here? When I start to see that, I take notice. I start to wonder, is this just a trade back towards safety? Is this something we need to consider? Is it just momentary and we don't have to worry about it? Where are we? The opposite is true as well. When I see that the large cap is getting hit dramatically, but maybe the underbelly of the market is holding up pretty well, that's a better sign in my opinion. But if you do find the top 10 stocks that hold, 25% of the total of the index, whether it's the Qs, whether it's the S&P 500, because the market cap weighted, do a comparison, look up the S&P 500 index and compare it to something like the S&P equal weighted index. And there is an ETF for both of those. And just start looking at the charts and see where there is a disagreement between the two of them. There are some oversold opportunities in a few areas. And we saw that the SPACs, and the memes all getting really hammered last several days. I mean, if we go back over to here and we look at, an AMC. Oh, why that chart's not working so well. We'll go here. AMC, I mean, dropping off dramatically, this big rounded top. GME kind of dropping down from where it was, and depending on how you look, it looks a little bit sharper, right? From about 340 down to about 166, trading at about 174 pre-market today. But you look at some of the SPACs and some of the areas that we've looked at before that we've been kind of working back and forth. This is space. This is the Richard Branson, big up towards the 52 mark a couple of days ago after there was a successful space travel flight and then a $500 million offering. Kind of took the wind out of that. 30, right about here, 29.79, nice support level in that. Obviously, we could draw some lines across and see what that is. 29 and change. There's some support actually right there, 31.46, kind of where we stopped yesterday. Dead on that, actually, right about lower, right about there. 30, it's right about 31. 31 bucks, right? We stopped yesterday. You can see there's really nice support right at that level right there. Seeing it bounce off of that. We are seeing an aileron roll. Now, of course, what you're looking at here, for those of you who hadn't joined us before, is the Commander Series with the addition of the aileron. Basically, you get on the top here, what we look at is a multi-time frame, 30, 60, 240, daily, weekly, all in one batch, so we can take a look at what the trend is. If I see, for example, on AMC, we have a long trend, 7 weeks, but yet short on the 4 week. We're starting to see that turn around. I always look from right to left, and I drill this into you over and over, always looking right to left. Same thing on a chart, always looking from right to left. Say it with me. Type it, right to left, or said a different way, look left. Look left. We always look left because we want to see the long-term trend and where we've been. where we are and where we have been. Very important to consider when we're looking at that. Yeah, there was, I'm not sure what that is. That's a leftover, I think. Okay, so there are some oversold opportunities there. We'll go through some of those that could see a bounce move right now. And when those bounce happens, oftentimes they are pretty significant. CPI inflation, very hot. We're seeing slowing industrial production, manufacturing, retail sales. China hits their target. Nice. Retail sales, very significant. Above. There was a retail sales number out this morning. I didn't see it, actually. I don't know. I have to look at that. I don't see that. Maybe someone in the chat could tell me. I didn't see that yet this morning. 8:30 this morning, I believe, was retail sales. Next week, a light week. Got some housing starts, initial claims, existing home housing prices, and sales, sales, not prices, and leading indicators. We're going to watch all these stocks down here. Then you got a couple that you put in there, which we'll look at right now. Put it inside. Oh, let me put a couple things in here. Let's see. Put that in here. And then that's where you can find the full suite of indicators. By the way, if you don't know about this, if you are on trial and you actually subscribe to these, you have to go through the process. So you're an actual subscriber to the TriggerCharts Commander Series. We'll give you a 4-hour free course. I have a timeless piece done a number of years ago, but it teaches you a lot of stuff that you need to know. $199 value. Totally for free. Send your email to support@triggercharts.com if you are a subscriber. Thank you, by the way, for many of you who are making us the #1 overall rated top indicator in the trading app store. That is kind of important. But check that out. The other thing was I said here. I'm going to type the word here. That's where you put your symbols, whatever your symbols may be. Somebody mentioned CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike is in that, first of all, everybody loves this company. Everybody loves this stock. Been in a pretty significant overall, I'd call it, consolidation, right up to about there. Finally broke out. We got that. You could see that long-term consolidation finally broke out, rolling over a little bit. Downside where? To about, I would say right about here, 245 is your downside. Right now, your intermediate target. You're seeing a little bit of a roll here. This is a company involved in cybersecurity and security and all ransomware issues, et cetera. This is a big issue right here. I think you have a stock that's in a very, very good place. Earnings will show what's happening. Relatively new stock. We are seeing a little bit, but not significant amount of rollover on the momentum. Very nice look, nice breakout coming into the top line where it was right there. You can kind of connect this line and this price right here. If we look at that, you want to always do connecting, looking left and connecting. So I'm going to grab a line tool and say, hey, look at that. Kind of stuck right there a few times. I would say that my level is right about here. 243, 244 as a level that I would look at. Right now, it's a no trade on a daily basis. If we move this over to a weekly, not enough weeks to really give us a lot of information here, but looks about the same. Coming in on the weekly, probably going to drop down, maybe test out some of these portions to 239 that I mentioned in that range before. And then down to 243. Right about here somewhere is your range. Somebody mentioned tips. Tips interesting. That's not it. I think this is what you want. That's what you want, right? TIP, which is the Treasury Inflation and Protected Securities. Kind of reaching an all-time high right now, banging through. This has been interesting. We have inflation. We actually hold this for client portfolios on the other side of our business, the money management side of our business. Beautiful breakout above a long-term consolidation. We did see this kind of move down when inflation was kind of rolling, when bonds were rolling down, but bonds kind of picked up dramatically, inflation expectations dramatically, cost of living increases for Social Security recipients will be the highest on record, which is kind of interesting if they don't recalculate it, of course. But what we have going on right here is a beautiful breakout right now. Very interesting move there. All right, let's take a look at some stocks. Didi. This is a name that was highly touted as an IPO. Oops, sorry about that. This is a Chinese Uber, for lack of a better discussion, delivery, taxi-ish kind of driver. The Uber, the Lyft, or as my father-in-law calls it, Uber and Lint. That's what he calls it. He's not trying to be funny either. But what you see right here is this major break right here when there was an investigation saying, hey, China's saying, we're pulling your apps from the trading app store, the app store, whatever you want to call it over in China, the China phone app store. And, we're really concerned about some of the way that you are handling some of your cybersecurity, as well as your retention of data on users. And we don't want that to breach out because, that's important information, where they travel, what they do. Who knows exactly what's going on? I think it's a toll road that's going on right now. Stock trading, right now, where are we trading here? 1188. Where is that? 11, right about here. So there was an announcement today that there was 7 different agencies in China that went in to investigate, which is something we knew. So I don't know why they're taking it down. It was down a lot more earlier. AMC, where is it? Nowhere's land. Do we have a chance right now to fall through? Yeah. This is not a positioning, even though we see this roll down. I wouldn't really be working this personally. If you have the stomach for this, I can't find any grip on this besides the fact that it shouldn't be valued here. Probably, closer down here again, $11 range. Are you going to get to the 19? I think it's a very good possibility if things don't work out so well in the meantime. Right now, we talked about space earlier. This is the Virgin Galactic. We have another billionaire astronaut going up soon. We have Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin. Right now, space, still an exciting area to be dealing with. The question is, are they going to be able to calculate and get and figure out how to be profitable in the near future with $250,000 seats? Here's another space company. I thought this was really interesting. We saw momentum. Let me go out a little bit. I want to show you something. We saw momentum come out right there. That one-day momentum. Obviously this did one of these spikes. That is interesting. Oftentimes you see multiple spikes after they cool off for a while. Now, what we're seeing is a short call right here. However, I want to kind of point you right to that line. I just randomly or closely put that line in right about there. Right on there, right by those two important levels. Actually, we could actually enable their radar and see where we are there. Yeah, we're at the top of the radar area right here. That's where we are before it breaks down, and then it gets some really good support at about 1017. However, currently trading about 1050. So now, if you look at this, very close to that area, bounced off it yesterday. Again, just bounced off, and then you saw that move to the upside here, and you saw that move moving up a little bit higher into that. So what I think is the most interesting about this is the opportunity for these oversold levels to come up, where you see the kind of reversals of this can be very strong. So we'll see what I would watch this. Workhorse. I tagged this recently as the company that needs one thing. Okay. Right now, the stock's been coming in after a nice little move up to 18. Currently trading up about 17 cents this morning. Nothing exciting in the pre-market. It's got some potential downside. There's no question of it. Right now the momentum is down. It's starting to turn a little bit up. This is technically not the most desirable from a long shot spec standpoint. All they have to do is get a little bit of love out of the post office. The Oshkosh deal's got to be a question. You can really see a move here. Right now, if you don't see any news, it's probably going to leak lower for a little while, but you never know when that news is going to come out. I like the concept of this and what they're trying to do. Again, technically, not terribly desirous. TLT coming down a little bit today, which is kind of interesting. That we saw tips. Tips probably will come in a little bit. So that move, very similar to tips. The tips where the stock, with the yield on bonds started coming down, inverse relationship to this. This is Marin Software. What do they do? I don't know. Do I care? No, not really. Again, you could trade this on any time frame. We're just looking right now at a daily. But when you look at this, and this is a good one to kind of draw something here. See this? Kind of have a B shape there, a big B. You start getting below the level of importance, which is kind of right about there, which looks like it's bouncing right off of. You would probably see a hole down to this level right here. And then from there, some really good support inside of here. And then a possible drop into this level, 502. Obviously, that's a long way from here. But when you look at this and you start to investigate what's happening, whether or not you put on the radar, take it off, you look at this, I mean, you got to see that it's a little bit overdone, right? I mean, this is just crazy new move. I mean, from the $1.75 to 26, hello. But it's going to see this volatility. I would look at this maybe on a 30-minute and try to trade this. This was coming down for the last however long. Again, these oversold circumstances look interesting right now. Qs bounced right on support yesterday. Hello, how are you? Just perfect bounce. Right below, closed right on the button right there. PEJ, looked at this as the opportunity if we continue to see a significant amount of rotation out of the travel and leisure and entertainment, well, maybe this will be a short opportunity. And lo and behold, it became one. Right now, trading flat on the day, held its support. But look at this. I always say look left, right? Well, you have to draw a box here. And we're going to do this to memorialize this discussion. You have to look at this level right here as something a very significant area. I'll make this a little bit wider so we can see where I'm going from. Right about here, where the support is. I mean, you have downside to about 43 here, which would be a nice little uptake. Getting through that move where there was nothing. Again, where I look left, that's the most important thing here. Look, there's just nothing. There's nothing here. Nothing. So that is a really good short call right there with momentum starting to come down as well on this. Interesting. We're going to leave that memorialized right there. Tiger, I don't know. This is kind of supposedly the Robinhood trading app of China. Not loving it. Bank of America seeing a few days of downstroke here due to the fact that, banks were out of favor. We're seeing a little bit of a down move right here, too, on our momentum. There's the aileron. People love the aileron because it gives you multiple confirmations. You not only see the confirmation of the autopilot, you not only see the confirmation if you put it on of the radar, you not only see the confirmation of the altimeter, but you get the aileron, too. Really important to have multiple confirmations because now you have a higher confidence. If you think about, you go into a trade, you're like, okay, what do I want to do? I want to trade that? No, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. You start getting all this thought going on, right? Well, what if you have multiple confirmations giving you a lot higher level of confidence in the overall trade? That's pretty good. So something to consider. Finally, on this little list here is XLF. This has been a little bit of a laggard, but again, within a consolidation, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's like, oh my God, this thing is going. No, it's been a consolidation in this range for a while now. If I can draw right there, give or take. And we allow for a little bit higher, a little bit lower, right? Overshoots to the upside, downside, but within that range. Right now you got a short call on this. Start to see momentum turn around a little bit, up 0.63% for the day. Somebody's asking me about CAJ. Canon? Yeah, McCannon? Is that what you want? Cannon? Steve? It's pretty thinly traded if I can see that from the chart. We have all these areas of gaps and weirdness. We see that the momentum was pretty ugly there for a while, picking up, coming up. Let's see what CAJ goes here. Let's see what that looks like. But yeah, daily is long 2 bars. It's short for 1030s. Again, long-term consolidation in this area, right? Breakout potential above, but it didn't work out so well for it. Couldn't break down either. Not the worst thing in the world. Interesting to look at. Let's take a look really quickly over at movers. Anything that's going on here of interest? As your Marin we pulled up earlier. Photronics, EVgo, interesting. FiberGen down 38% today. Leading brands down a significant amount. Mama Mancini's. What is that? Mama Mansions? I don't know what that is. Hostess Brands getting a little bit of a problem there, but always look at how many trades. Lots of movement on the one above, but not much here. 13 trades, 990 shares traded. Not a big deal. All right, we're going to end it right there. Thanks, everybody, for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed that. Go over to the trading app store and check out TriggerCharts, what it has to offer. Make sure if you become a subscriber that you do get that 4-hour free training course right into support at TriggerCharts.com. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you again next week. Get some profits going. Get to it.